by name, not to stand up, some of the members of my committee. He first is Charlie Sheng. I said, Charlie, please, you notice, I always say please. Please, Charlie, may we have a newsletter by May 1. And then, a Wei-Tai cannot escape. Since I'm taking the chairmanship, I asked him to take over the tribute to the founders. And I have my alumni, high school alumni, Li Zhong and Robert Wu, to find us an appropriate speaker. And then I have Lucia, who is a better half of Billy. And I said to Lucia, I want everything from you, so you can honor your husband. And then Bill Kwok, simple. I want very good wine at a very low price. And then of course we have a bright young intern volunteer, Talia. Talia came to us very agile at the computers. That's what we need. And of course, there is Jean Creon, who has been with us as our administrator for the past 16 years. She could have done the annual dinner without any of us. But thank you, Jean. Thank you very much. I'm not done yet. I'm wearing another hat, which is as president of the Institute for this year. Now, year 2011 is a transitional year. We talk about in terms of leadership transfer and also about new focus for the Institute. Leadership transfer, since Wei-Tai does such a good job as president, he got promoted to chairman to succeed C.B.'s son. And Audie Chen succeed me as a chief financial officer. And husband and wife team, James Caldwell and Janelle Wade, taking over Billy Lee's projects, children, art, and the environment. And we have Dan Chow, who initiated and shepherded the microfinance project into one of the best managed in China. So I see. Now, you probably should ask, who is going to succeed me? I'm like Ed Lee, interim mayor. I'm interim president. I will only do it for 1 year. Unfortunately, my successor decided it's more important for him to attend a flower show in Paris than to show up here. This is what I want to say to you. You are looking at new group of leaders who will define the focus and direction of the Institute in the next decade. And now I call on Wei-Tai to start the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ross. Tonight, welcome everybody again, and tonight we're here to honor 3 founders of the 1990 Institute. C.B. Sung, our founding chairman. Cheng, our founding president. Billy Lee, one of our founding board members. Now, the Bay Area, as we all know, is no stranger to startup companies. In fact, we were just talking about it over dinner just now. We're used to actually startup companies that are really for-profit startup companies, that is. But how many people do we know actually that actually have started a non-profit Bay Area company? That's pretty different for the Bay Area. In fact, what type of person would it be? Who would it be that would start a not-for-profit company and try to go out there and not make money in Silicon Valley? Do you think it might be a 60-year-old person that would do that? Or maybe two 60-year-old people that would start up such a company? Or maybe two 60-year-olds and a aspiring 50-year-old guy tagging along for fun? Well, that's the story I want to tell you about tonight. So let's go back in time to the 1980s, when China was on a real march towards reform. The Mao era had ended, and Deng Xiaoping's reforms of the 80s were in high gear and transforming the country and society to improve people's livelihoods. Hopes were really high for an opening of the society. But then things suddenly changed. The events of 1989 shocked the world, and enthusiasm and goodwill abruptly ended. Most of the world turned against China at that time. And while Chinese in America were very frustrated, our founders decided to take an unusual path at the time, and instead of focusing on criticizing China, which is what pretty much everybody else was doing, this group decided to do something productive and positive and help China instead. So what type of Chinese Americans would it be that would do something like that to start a nonprofit to help China? Let me first tell you about Dr. Cheng, our co-founding president. Cheng was born in China, and he was educated at Tsinghua University with a degree in history. He came to the States he left in 1948, came to the States, went to George Washington University where he got his master's in international relations, and then he went on to Princeton University for his PhD in economics in 1963. He was a professor later of economics at Iowa State University before moving to the Bay Area in 1971 to become vice president at the Federal Reserve and a researcher at the Center for Pacific Basin Studies for over 20 years. When he faced China's challenges in 1989, he actually believed that he could help. And as a lifelong intellectual and researcher and basic all-around brainiac, in my view, he proposed to start an independent Western think tank focused on China's macroeconomic policies. And he felt that China needed independent, informed, non-political advice on how to pursue market-oriented reforms. But how would he start a think tank? And how would he raise the funds to fund the research? Well, as we all know, he soon met C.B. Sung, shared this idea, and the rest is history. The Institute was born, and Cheng subsequently led dozens of researchers to tackle topics such as agricultural reform, tax reform, labor reform, banking, and so forth. Well, he retired from the Federal Reserve in 1992, thankfully to take up a more full-time role leading the Institute at that time. You know, what I most admire of Cheng over those 20 years was truly his brains and his high standards. I think any of you who've worked with him know how meticulous Cheng is. Incredible attention to detail. You will read every book, every paper, every newsletter, every word, every sentence we wrote with many, many comments. All I could say afterwards, those poor students at Iowa State who were studying under him. But in addition to that real brainy intellect, Cheng is truly one of the most thoughtful, graceful, humility, kindness, and fun, lots of fun and lots of laughter, believe it or not. I always enjoy being with Cheng. Cheng, you have dedicated a significant portion of your life to starting the 1990 Institute in order to improve the livelihood of people in China. I remember you wanted to solve the big picture macro issues and really have the greatest impact. That was not an easy task. And you brought together some of the best minds from the East and the West to focus on China at a time it was really unpopular to do so. And you did all of this and led all of us with a smile on your face. And who thought economics could be this much fun, right? So thank you for setting a wonderful tone for all of us at the Institute. I wanted to read a limerick, actually, written by James Luce, one of our directors who sends his regards from Spain and couldn't join us tonight, in honor of Hang Sheng's retirement. And it goes like this. It's titled, "He's Left His Part in San Francisco." Attending any meeting with HSC was always an exciting place to be. Sometimes he sat so quietly calm, sometimes he sat quietly like a bomb. When his brain exploded, it was far too late to flee. Like a smooth Cadillac engine of years gone by, Hang Sheng's mind pursed quietly when in high. He listens to all we have to say, even if it's been a very long day. Then his thoughts and counsel take wing and fly. How can someone so talented be so humble? How can someone so smart never grumble? About flawed or silly thoughts of others? Rather gently guiding us like little brothers, and lighting our path so we don't stumble. An egg-headed macroeconomics type of guy, cautious, contemplative, always asking why. A guide-like of the federal bank, a founding father of our think tank. It makes me cry to say goodbye. With best wishes from James Luce. So, thank you, Hang Sheng. Now, while Hang Sheng has brought us economic firepower, our next honoree is Billy Lee, our creative tour de force. Born in China and immigrated to the U.S. in 1947 to attend Phillips Academy Prep School in Andover, Massachusetts. He went on to get his bachelor's degree and master's degree in architecture at Yale University. And at the time of founding the Institute, he was a very well-established architect, frequently sporting a bow tie. Billy is one of the most creative thinkers that I know. He's a real visionary who thinks so far ahead. He has had a number of roles at the 1990 Institute, including leading the nominating committee for a number of years, all of these years, where he actually recruited half of the people in this room to join us, and some of the most amazing talents that he brought to our board. He also initiated some very new successful directions for the Institute, namely programs and lectures and workshops on women's issues, on environmental sustainability, which was a topic at least 5 years ahead of its time before that word became fashionable, sustainability. He created a number of US-China exchange programs involving children, art, and the environment, and using art as a means to engage children from China and the United States on the topic of the environment. Most recently, he started an annual mural painting festival in Beijing, an idea so successful that the Chinese have taken it over and carrying it forward as their own. Billy, you've been a creative spark for the Institute, and one day you told me something I'll never forget, that you were at this point of your life that what was really important to you was to be doing something interesting. I will never forget that you told me that. It was good advice, and what a great philosophy to share with us. So I want to thank you for making our lives more interesting, and along the way that we accompanied you on your journey. So I also have a limerick for you, also written by Jim Luce from Spain, and it's called Look Up in the Sky. What can we say about retiring Billy, always energetic, never willy-nilly? A captain of the 1990 fleet, quick of both wit and of feet, never a shrinking violet nor a placid lily. Always coursing strong in storm-tossed seas, courageous and bold, never on his knees. Able to lead tall tasks with determination, able to do the impossible without hesitation. A one-man hive of very busy bees. He's joining our admiral in quiet retirement, pulling up his stakes and folding up his tent, leaping into the nearest telephone booth to strip off his Institute uniform without being uncouth, transforming from Superman back to Clark Kent. He was and is always more than he can be, facing each task with joy and obvious glee. My sorrow is mitigated by just one truth. Billy is far too young to act long of tooth. He'll never be content to stay sheltered in the lee. Enjoy your 30 seconds of retirement. From James Luce. Now, C.G. Sheng, our founding chairman, came to the United States in 1947 to study at MIT, where he got his engineering degree, and he went on to the Harvard Business School to get his MBA. Later, in 1967, he became the first Asian American vice president of a Fortune 500 company. That was Bendix Corporation. When Nixon opened China to the West in the 70s, he and his wife Beulah traveled to China in 1973 to visit their parents for the first time. And at that time, his parents encouraged them to come back and help China. That was in 73. He ultimately quit Bendix to start his own company, Unison International. CB's company was the one that was actually responsible for building the first foreign invested hotel in China, the Great Wall Hotel in Beijing, a 5-star hotel. And subsequently, Unison brokered nearly 40 joint ventures, including the Beijing Jeep JV, that was the first automotive JV in China, Xerox Shanghai joint venture, and numerous other industrial ventures. Those decades of being one of the earliest and most prominent Chinese-American businessmen in China helped him establish the relationships and friendships at the highest echelon of Chinese leadership. Zhu Rongji, I saw pictures of Zhu Rongji, Jiang Zemin, you name it. Beulah and CB were meeting them. And these relationships and trust that they built up would be instrumental in the founding of the 1990 Institute and providing a willing audience for our research work. CB was an incredible force in creating the whole organization around the 1990 Institute, whereas Han Sheng provided the economic research firepower, both through his own brain power and those of his friends like economist Milton Friedman, Chancellor Cheng of Berkeley, or his old roommate Harold Shapiro from Princeton, who ended up becoming president of Princeton University and an honorary co-chair of the Institute. On the other hand, CB brought fundraising, entrepreneurial drive, and world-class organizational skills to the founding of the Institute. CB, 21 years ago when we started this, I was just a 26-year-old volunteer involved in helping the Institute. And I remember so vividly seeing you in action in those days, being a young and impressionable person myself, chairing our board meetings with such formality and professionalism. Wow, this guy is really serious. And I always felt like, wow, CB was definitely one of the corporate executives of the highest caliber that I've ever seen now in my 21 years in business. CB is savvy about China like few other Americans have been in this period. And he's been one of those guys that he does what he says. When he says he's going to do it, he's going to do it. And that can-do approach made us believe that anything is possible, and we have followed him. CB, you've been like a rock of stability, foresight, and you've had incredible instincts to guide us over the last 20 years. It's been a real privilege to learn from you through this time. I want to thank you. And also, read you a limerick, the final one of the evening. That starts with "In harmony, please." Hark, the herald brings us all bad news, the kind that makes you feel the blues. Our chairman of so many years has given notice he's changing gears. Into retirement he intends to cruise. I would like the board to carefully note that our captain's still on board the boat. He did not abandon ship in the middle of the trip, and the vessel's still very much afloat. CB's just moved up another rung, and he's still very with us and among the cherished few who have retired after leadership both wise and inspired. So let's all give tongue to a song for Sheng, in honor of CB from James Luce. Well, in closing, let me once again ask to you all my original question. what type of individuals is it that start up a Bay Area nonprofit organization? On the one hand, it's individuals very similar to you and me. They were raising families, they had jobs and businesses to run, they led busy lives, and they were very ordinary in that way. And yes, CB and Hang Sheng were about 60 years old when they started this idea back in 1989 and 90. When that crisis occurred in China in '89, these ordinary individuals began a really extraordinary journey. And when China needed help and no others were helping, they stepped forward to serve their motherland, China, with the skills they had on hand. And in helping China, they believed that they could benefit the world. And they showed such passion, tenacity, and delivered the very highest level of scholarship and professionalism in their output. We can all be proud that the 1990 Institute over these 20 years has played a small but significant part in China's economic development, and it was really because of the great leadership of the three honorees we have today. CB, Hang Sheng, and Billy, we salute you, we thank you, and we wish you all the best. And I propose a toast to our three honorees tonight. If you have anything to toast with, or cheers? The champagne is supposed to come out magically from the doors. Salute. Cheers. So, let's see. Billy. Billy is going to acknowledge on behalf of all three. Thank you.
Good evenings. On behalf of CB and Hansen, we want to thank you all for coming and for giving part of this program to honor them. And I also thank you first from the bottom of my heart. And I will make this very brief. We wish the best to the present new leaders and all of you who will volunteer to help the 1990 Institute. I take this opportunity just to give my own thanks to CB and Hansen. These two are my two big brothers, and they are my personal mentors. And I would just say this, because of time, I will not say everything that I've written here. But I would just tell everyone about when the day that I was leaving China for the United States, my father told me, now Billy, actually he called me Didi, now you're going to be on your own and behave yourself. And then always try to follow those people who are good and those people who want to do good. And also stick around with people who are really smart and hopefully, certainly much smarter than you. So anyway, I took the advice very seriously. You can see that I married Lucille. She's not only good, but most of you know that she's a lot smarter than I. And then of course, I joined the 1990 Institute. At that time, I was totally, trust CB as my big brother, and I was impressed by Hansen's, his certainly charm, and also his really sincereness in his charmness. And so I joined the 1990 Institute, and following those people who I know are much smarter than I am. And so for that, I want to say, I will send you the material I wrote personally. I won't read it here tonight, but I just want to say, I thank you two big brothers, and I love you both. Thank you very much.